Okay, so we previously talked about making coils for beads. You'll need something for kind of a decorative element. Coils are fine. You can even do it without coil or bead, but here's my beads. That's what I'm liking best right now, but we do have an alternative. Okay, that said, here's my sample of chain. And so you can see that what we're making here is hand done links. And so we want to create an eye and a wrap and then put the bead on and then kind of go and make the other side of it, which also involves an eye and a wrap, and it comes together. And when you bend it, it should feel kind of solid. I think I have one in here that is, I refer to it as, it's a little necky. Okay, and let me see, let me find that. When it's a little necky, it can bend right there. You see how it has a little kink in there? Well, when you're wearing that constantly, that's going to end up bending back and forth. That's where it's going to break. Okay? So you want to try and create it so that your links are tight, so each section is solid and doesn't have a bend in it. Okay? All right, so that's a consideration. All right. So here I've got what I'm working on, and you're going to use the thinnest wire in your collection, okay? So feel the weights of your wire. You have some heavy, the collection of nickel, bronze, copper, and those are 18 gauge, and they'll feel a little heftier. And then you should have a little bit of wire that's a little bit thinner, and that's 20 gauge. So remember that 20 gauge is thinner than 18 gauge. Okay, so I cut myself off some, and I'm going to start my first link. And so with your collection of tools, you should have a pair of flat nose pliers, right? I think yours are, they're pretty close to these, but they are orange handled. I know it's very intuitive for people to want to use those round nose pliers, but you really hardly ever use those pliers in a kit. And so because they can bung up your wire. When you have round wire going into a round tool and pinching, the two rounds make like a corner and end up dinging up your wire. So flat, round to flat will not ding up your wire. So hopefully you can visualize that. Okay, so here I am. I'm holding my wire and I'm putting it into my flat pliers, and I'm using my thumb as a brake. So I'm right here at the tool. Let me get it into the camera. At the tool, I'm using my thumb as a brake, and I'm bending right there. Boom. I'm pressing down. And when I take away, I should have a pretty good sharp bend right there. Now I have this at what? That's like little more than 90 degrees, right? I guess that would be an acute angle. Yes. See, using geometry. All right. So, okay. So that said, I'm now going to shift my plier right there. I like to work more at the nose of the plier. And I'm going to take this around, and you can see that as I bend, the wire is going to take that curve, and I'm going to try and make that curve down tight to my bend, like so, nice and tight. And I'm going to keep going around with that, swinging around until I am back at my 90-degree angle, like so. So you should have a piece that looks pretty close to this. Ideally, the eye is centered over your base wire right on this side. Okay. So now you're going to take your flats and you're not going to work this direction. You're going to hold your metal, your loop flat. I'm going to put this right at the nose. I'm not clamping at the crossover. I am off like that. You see how I am? I'm kind of bracing it off the side. Like so. The cross is right there. Okay. So that said, my metal's at 90 degree. I'm going to take this and I'm going to, again, use my base metal as a brake with my thumb. And I'm going to wrap around the wire. Your wire should be touching, your wrap should be touching your base metal. Nice and tight, right there. Hopefully you can see it. I'll try and get it, keep, right? Nice and tight to your base wire. Again, you can see maybe I'm a degree less past 90 so that I'm coming down tight, making those coils again, coming down tight to my base wire. And I like to do a 1. I usually do more than a 1 coil. I usually do like a 2, 2.5, 3 coil wrap. All right. I'm going to flush cut that. Flush cut towards the coil, snip that. You'll see I'll still have a cutting nub. I want to tuck my cutting nub. Come on. There we go. Kind of pinching that down, trying to keep it in line with the coil. Okay. So there's my first eye. The first eye of my chain. Okay, so now, try and keep it in focus, I'm going to slide on a bead. Slide on a bead. There I go. Now you can see, that works. That's pretty good. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take my flat nose and I'm going to pinch down, and I'm not going to hold it straight, right? I'm going to angle that so that there is no slack room between between bead and coil. Everything is tight down. See how that is? I'm not straight on or holding it like this where I would have more space. I'm tight to my wire. Okay. Okay, once I like to angle that, right now I like to really use the very tip of my needle nose. All right, now I'm going to do my I'm going to do my other side. So I'm going to take this. I'm using my finger as a brake against the plier, making a nice tight bend. That should not be curved, it should be cornered. Okay, I'm a little past 90 degrees. Okay, so now I can take this and I can start bending it backwards, and right to that coil you can see I'll start to create my eye, bringing it around at least 90 degrees. When you look at this, this should be kind of round there, right? Nice tight, it's not going to lay flat, shouldn't be too honking big, right? You want to make it nice and petite. Okay. I'm going to hold that. I'm off to the side now. I guess if you wanted to, you see how this edge is kind of parallel to that line right there. See how I'm holding that? Okay. So now I'm taking this, using the wire as a brake, my thumb against it, and I'm making my coil. Wrapping it down nice and tight, First wrap, second wrap, third wrap, however it takes, many it takes to make it so that there's no slack in your link. What you're making is your link. Okay? If it's necky, if it's not coiled down to it, what's going to happen, again, it's going to be bendy there, and you're going to end up with a break. If it's tight and rigid, it should last pretty good. I'm going to flush cut it, and I'm going to tuck my wire in so it's not snaggy. Okay, there we go. Again, your eye should be over your coil. Shouldn't be too wonky. It should be kind of small. Okay, so that is your first link. Okay, good.